Welcome back to the Altars and Ashes podcast, a show for saints called to faithfulness in a hostile age. The altars of God still burn, even as the world turns to ash. I'm Basil Desmond Fleming.
I'm Robbie Stringer.
I'm Austin Tucker.
And today, we are talking about the myth of neutrality. Gents, how you guys doing?
Doing great.
Don't lie.
We're over here smoking some great cigars.
Yeah.
Enjoying some libations.
Yeah.
And staring at Robbie.
I have my Fresca
Ooh,
to
Fresca.
honor John
Johnny
MacArthur.
Mac.
Yep.
Gotta honor Johnny Mac.
Every episode I've got a Fresca, apparently. So
Austin, you just speak for yourself. I'm just sitting over here judging.
Robbie is
you.
doing terrible. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
When he said he's doing well,
Robbie's
you're like, I'm
over
doing
here.
terrible.
He said he's judging us as he's wearing a Nike T-shirt that you know was made by little Chinese hands in some slave factory somewhere.
He's not only wearing a Nike T-shirt, he's wearing brand new Nike shoes.
Yeah, he's got some nice kicks.
So
Some
basically
nice
what he's saying
kicks.
is he loves slave labor.
Yep.
When did you become a proponent of slavery?
It's hard to remember. It goes,
Yeah,
it goes
so
way
far
so
back.
far back.
Nike as a company gives me the GBGBs.
The GBGBs or the heebie-jeebies?
That sounds too anti-Semitic.
Oh.
When did you start hating the Jews?
Is that a new kind of shoe?
The GBGBs?
Yeah. Did you get the new GBGBs?
If it's not,
We got
it's
the
gonna-
Yeezys. Why not the GBs?
You know, I think that maybe that's what we should do next. Really, like if this podcast ever fails, we start a company and we produce shoes called the GBGBs.
GBGs? I like it.
GBs.
Yeah. because we're making so much money at this right now that, you know.
Dude. We're making tens and thousands of change.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. All right. So, yeah, today we're talking about neutrality. And I called it the myth of neutrality, and I know that we all agree. Honestly, it might be one of the greatest myths that is neutrality that modernity has fallen for. We've talked about it multiple times, but every culture bows to something. It's either Christ or idols. And of course, Douglas Wilson always says it's either Christ or chaos, right? And we've talked multiple times about Abraham Kuyper. So, Austin, you want to give us that quote?
Oh, there's not a square inch of all creation over which Christ does not cry mine.
Yep, that's right.
That's Kuyper, man. People need to read Kuyper. They really do need to read Kuyper.
And you can start with the Stone Lectures if you've not read anything.
Well, I've got one of his quotes here. When principles that run against your deepest conviction begin to win the day, then the battle is your calling. He's just
say it again.
always.
Say it again. I just got off of work, so I'm trying. My mind is still processing.
I haven't worked in years, so,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you
That's
do
what
work for
people-
that hour on Sunday
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
When principles that run against your deepest conviction begin to win the day, then your battle is your calling. The whole concept of just standing when those things are being pushed against, being a bulwark of truth. It is bulwark. I said that
Bulwark.
right. Bulwark.
Yeah.
I always
It's all right.
have
It's
a
all
hard
right.
time with those.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Our audience knows. They're fine with it.
Oh, yeah.
They're
probably
recognize
used
it.
to me
Yeah.
by now.
I mean, half of our audience is your family.
That is.
So,
yeah. that is
and the other
happening.
half is our family. So.
Well, and we
yeah.
used to have Robbie, which was an audience of our old.
Right,
but
and then we let him on here. Like we took half of our audience,
which means audience, maybe you too. If you listen enough, then maybe you will be on as well.
You never know.
You never know. So keep listening.
That's right. That's right.
Tell your friends.
And invite friends because then they also might be able to be on here.
Exactly.
Right, and that's in theory. So yeah. So neutrality is not an option. It's either Christ or chaos. So
why isn't it an option, though?
Well, that's what I want to talk about. Let's talk about some biblical foundations for that.
Because you say it's the myth of neutrality.
I do say it's a myth.
So you're not saying that it's not a good option. You're saying it is an option that does not exist.
I would think it wouldn't be a good option anyway, but that's not even a option to have an option. because
that's not confusing.
No.
Well, you can't have.
My whole goal is just to confuse you, and then you're like, I don't know if he's right or wrong.
You can't have truth as being anything but absolute.
Right. Truth is truth. There's no
has
my
to have
truth
a
or your
foundation.
truth.
There
Right.
can't be a my truth, your truth.
It's objective, yeah.
And if Christ is the objective truth and his word is the objective truth, then everything we teach has to come from some kind of position of truth.
Yeah.
So where are you coming from?
Well, and that's where I was going with, I was trying to go there after confusing you, is, in Matthew 12.
I just wanted to clarify, though, because a lot of people hear about neutrality, and they usually hear about it in a very
Switzerland.
positive
right,
sense.
Right.
Like when somebody says, I'm neutral. And what I think the way people normally interpret that is, I'm fair. So if you're not neutral, you are unfair.
I fundamentally disagree.
No, I disagree too.
No, I know, but I'm saying I fundamentally disagree in the sense that when somebody says they're neutral, I automatically assume that they're not principled enough to pick a side.
That's 100% what it is.
That's right. So for me, when somebody says they're neutral, it's usually like, you're trying not to offend anybody. That's how I usually feel about it. And that's not always the case. That's, that might be a fundamental flaw of mine that I have. But generally, if I see somebody like that, I'm going, well, you're just fence straddling, because there is only two sides. There's either dark and light, good and bad. And Jesus says in Matthew 12:30, whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. And so I generally look at it and go, if you're neutral, you're trying not to offend somebody. So tell me where I'm wrong there, because I know that.
Well, I agree, and I also disagree.
Okay.
So
you're of two minds again?
In this, I am double-minded.
Okay.
I am very double-minded.
You heard it from him first.
No, so it kind of depends on how you want to think about it. So someone might be neutral about something. Like, so for instance, if you bring up a topic that I just don't know anything about, okay, I may say, well, I don't have an opinion on that because I just don't know enough to have come down on one side or not.
Don't you feel like that's different, though, than neutral?
Well,
not having an opinion?
Well, go with me here.
Okay.
So I may start out neutral, but I think the problem is when people try to stay that way. Okay. So in other words, you start hearing different arguments, you start hearing different facts, you start thinking, and there's some people who just will never take a side.
Yeah.
But do you actually start out neutral? I mean, because the argument philosophically is that we all come from a position in our worldview. We all have an hegemony which we come from. So you never are actually truly neutral, even when you're first coming to an item.
That's true, but you might think you're neutral. And so what you're saying is, like, you think you're neutral stepping into this discussion. You haven't really talked about it enough. And so you're saying, okay, educate me. I'm neutral. I don't know anything well enough at this point to make it an informed decision.
Now, you might have some priors that you may not be aware of.
You have
you've been arrested a couple times.
You have priors.
Well, not me.
No, okay.
You bring us back.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah, bring us
all
back.
All right, let's get back. So we were talking about neutrality and how there might be a topic that you just don't know about, right? And so then you start to hear about it. But the problem is that there are some people who want to stay in a permanent state of neutrality. And I think that's where I agree with you that the cowardice starts to come in, because there's some people who neutrality seems safe,
yeah.
Right? Because then you're not going to get criticized.
Right. Or you're not going to make enemies.
Right.
But the problem is, I think you hit the nail on the head. Neutrality is no place you can stay. You come, you look at the evidences, and there's always going to be a right and wrong. And so you can't stay in neutrality. And a Christian should come not as a neutral viewer, but somebody with a worldview set from the scriptures. And that's the lens by which they judge that. But I can understand there is a moment of neutrality when you're trying to figure out how this thing's going to be judged.
Perceived neutrality.
Yes.
I still don't think there's
no true neutrality.
Right.
I would agree with you on that. Because human nature don't allow for neutrality.
Now, if we're talking about a worldview, I would agree.
Yeah.
There is no neutrality there, because everybody has a particular worldview, even if it's not something you've deeply thought about and you've never necessarily articulated into a specific set of principles.
That might be the worldview.
What?
That whole, I've never really thought about it. I just go along with life. That is a worldview.
That is a
Hakuna Matata.
World. But I think that
means no worries.
No worries. For the rest of your day. I'm sorry.
That's the interesting thing about Disney is this is probably off topic. In fact, I know it's off topic.
Well, we were just singing Hakuna Matata.
Well,
so.
actually, no. I'll bring it back since we're talking about the Lion King here.
Yeah.
That movie, it's kind of interesting that Disney makes songs that are really catchy, that are the exact opposite point of the movie. So, like that song says no, like there's no worries, but the whole thing of the movie is you can't ignore your problems,
and that's a good point.
And you have to actually go back and face them. Like you can't have that position, which just shows you. And this is how I'm going back that everything has a worldview attached to it. Like even like what you might think of as just a kids movie has a point or a principle to it. There is no neutrality.
He just did a great pastor switch.
I don't.
And the illustration.
My brain hurts there. I don't think
that was good.
That. So every Disney movie has a point.
Well, I don't know
because I feel like I've seen them.
I mean, there are stories, I guess, that are just sheer randomness.
Okay.
I suppose. Although even that might have a meaning in the sense that we don't need a meaning. That might also
all of life is random. Yeah. Okay.
So that even might have a deeper thing.
Yeah,
maybe
fair.
I'm overthinking it though, so I don't know.
You definitely,
but lots of them do. Yeah. Lots of movies and TV shows and books and all kinds of stuff. The writers and the creators of it have an agenda.
Yeah, sure.
And that's not me saying good or bad. I'm just saying an agenda.
Some sort of agenda.
And so here it is. I don't know if you've been following the mess going on Twitter, which saying that is like.
There's no
a
such thing
Texas
as
sharpshooter.
Yeah, you're going to have to be more.
You can just hit a mess anytime you get on Twitter. But everybody's canceling. Everybody's
Do you mean
canceling
X?
Their Netflix. Yeah, you mean X.
Yeah.
Have you all seen the movement on canceling Netflix?
I saw something about that. I don't know what it's about, though.
So I started going down the rabbit hole, and people started investigating and looking into the children's shows that Netflix has built and created. And it started all the way back with that dinosaur one that your kids like that you said had the homosexual stuff.
Episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there was like show after show after show after show after show. Almost pretty much everything that Netflix has built for kids has pushed the sexual ideology of our generation, the ungodly sexual ideology, down the throats of our kids.
Yeah.
And people are going, why are we paying Netflix? What?
I don't know how you just now get to that, though.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well, the thing is I knew it was there.
Yeah.
But when I went down this rabbit hole, I didn't realize how much it was there.
Okay.
I mean, all their cartoons are full of it now.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And
well, I mean, first of all, Hollywood can't produce anything right now without having representation, is what they call it.
Well,
so they have to have representation.
Yeah, that was
to be able to even get an award.
That's my point. Is everything is written to push a moral or a thought or a story.
Yeah,
everything is. And so you were talking about Disney.
Well, and we would, to be fair, we would do the same thing if we had a media company right now. We would be pushing an agenda.
That is the best. I mean, that
shows there's no neutrality, right?
Stories are there to entertain, yes.
Right.
But if you can shape worldview in a positive way, like you're saying, yes, we would be doing the same thing. Sure. They are doing well, let me be careful how I say this.
The antithesis.
They are doing what I guess philosophically they should be doing. They are presenting their belief.
Right.
And their principle.
Right.
As you said, if we had a media company, we would not be trying to create neutral values.
We have a media company.
We have a media company.
Well, when we have a company that is producing film, then we will do that. Yeah.
Our $4.5 million budget in the next couple of years.
4.5.
Yeah, we have a media company, not quite a cartoon.
We don't have a media conglomerate yet, unfortunately.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So biblical foundations, though. I mentioned Matthew 12. You guys have any other ones that you can think of that?
Colossians 2:8.
Okay.
See that no one takes you captive by philosophy and empty deceit, according to human traditions, according to the elements of the spirit of this world, and not according to Christ. So we're going back to the concept that we have to have a worldview.
Yep.
Your worldview is enslaved to something. Have it not enslaved to the captivity of the vain philosophy of this world, but enslaved to Christ. And that's what Colossians 2:8 calls. It calls for us to look through the lens of Christ in all things.
Yep. That's good. What about you, Robbie?
Well, rather than talk about a specific passage, what I want to think about is maybe like why in America, like, or in the West in general, I suppose, why do we think that why, like, not we, the three of us,
just
but
the West.
why do we, the West, why does neutrality seem to be such a positive thing, particularly when it comes to religion and theology? And I think a lot of it might go back several hundred years. So, you go back to the pre-Reformation, everybody had the same general framework, right? The Roman.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Mm-hmm. Can you save that thought? Is it thought of as positive? And the reason I'm asking that is, in my mind, it's almost never positive.
No, I think it originally was, because you go back to the public school, and in the 70s, they started saying, well, we can teach science, we can teach all this stuff from a neutral position. And
I don't want a neutral position.
I know, I don't either, but I think that's what indoctrinated the positive mindset. And I think the new generation of people, left and right, are now taking a position, this next generation underneath us. It's kind of like the left is like, well, we want to give true education and we want to silence the dangerous voices. And you have the right saying, we want to give a conservative education. Yeah. So I think neutrality being thought of as positive is becoming less part of our culture.
So I guess that may be what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Well, I realize that you're saying, like, you don't think
right, and that's what I'm asking. Like, is it?
And I don't know that may not be true in more recent times. But like I want to go all the way back.
Like
here.
historically,
I want to go, yeah. So like you go back before the Reformation, and Western society was pretty monolithic in its beliefs because everything was the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, right.
And there was actually more room for debate in the Roman Catholic Church system, I think, than many people are willing to give it credit for. But there definitely were certain lines.
It wasn't really till like the Dark Ages really where the church started like fundamentally changing to the point that we think of when we think of the Roman Catholic Church.
Well, that's partially true, I think,
extent.
But I do think that even during the Middle Ages, like the term Dark Ages, if I recall, that was done by a kind of like anti-Christian person.
Of course it was.
That wanted to paint the Middle Ages as being this awful place because in his mind, religion equals awful.
Bad, right.
Which is kind of where I'm going with this, because if you think religion is bad, you're going to want to create this new neutral space.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So if you have the Catholic Church kind of reigning over everything, and I do think it was a more broad as far as allowing like free thought and questioning things than many people think, but there definitely were lines that you could not cross. So then in comes Martin Luther,
right,
and he wants to question certain things that are considered to be out of bounds.
Right.
And then, you have Europe breaking up into Protestants and Catholics. And Reformed, and eventually Anabaptists. Yep. And then what do? They spend generations killing each other.
Fighting.
There's all these wars, tons of people die. And so you could understand somebody saying, religion creates a lot of problems. Wouldn't it be good if we could just create like a neutral space and just kind of like shove all this religion to the side? And maybe in your own homes or maybe in the church if you really feel like you have to be religious. But when it comes to like the government or when it comes to other things, like let's create this safe space where things are not influenced by religion.
In the words of Wilson, if there's no God above the government becomes God. And
no God above the state. Yeah,
no God above the state. So this whole concept of let's create a neutral space is, in fact, by its very nature, anti-neutral. We are saying let's shove God out of his creation.
Right. So what we call neutral is actually atheistic.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And that's what we mean when there's no real neutrality.
So maybe can you define real neutrality for us then? Like if what you're saying is the modern view of neutrality is atheistic, right? What is true neutrality?
Well, I think it's always atheistic.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So, but that's not the way they present it. That's not the way they thought about it.
Right.
And I think that a lot of people thought, why do we need religion? We don't need revelation. We can use reason. We can use what we call common sense to figure out things. We don't need the Bible for all that.
You're talking about the age of modernity.
Well, the Enlightenment, right?
Right.
Was that, yeah.
And so because they thought, and I think the reason they thought that was they thought, we don't need revelation to find morality. We can figure that out on our own.
Yeah.
But the reason that they could agree on so much morality is because they'd been steeped in Christian culture. They'd embraced a lot of Christian principles without realizing it.
Right.
And in the United States today, there's still many people who espouse Christian ideas, and they don't know why.
Yeah.
That's just what they've grown up with.
Yep.
And they don't realize that what they're saying are Christian ideas.
Well, and they'll make the argument, look, we came to this morality without Christ above us. But if you want to see what morality looks like with no true God above you, just go to the early Greeks and see the fake gods of idolatry and the morality of that generation.
Look at pre-Christian.
Yes.
The world, the Greco-Roman world.
And the
Vikings.
Greco-Romans, yeah.
And so, and nobody would want to live there.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Like in our modern world, like with their values.
Even though people fantasize it all the time.
But the thing is, I think that every generation you get farther where neutrality or essentially atheism becomes, you start to gradually lose those Christian values.
Yeah, of course.
And if you go to certain places in Europe, that's exactly what they have. They've completely lost their Christianity.
That's right.
And they might say we're neutral, but what they're really operating on is atheistic principles.
One of the basic laws of nature is that nature does not like a vacuum.
Yeah, it abhors a vacuum.
It abhors a vacuum. So I don't think there's ever been a section of the EU that has been truly religionless. Now it's become Muslim and everything else in between because of their abhorring of the Christian worldview.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's exactly it. And so, like, the more that you're making that case, though, the more I'm even more staunch in my opinion that there is no neutrality and that neutrality is not a positive good, right?
Right.
So, what they're saying is they want a public square without religion, essentially, which goes back to that two-story view that we talked about with Francis Schaeffer and everything like that. What they're doing is they're saying, you take your religion, you put it up here, and on the bottom floor, this is where reason and science and real things are. And you can put your phony religion up there, and you can have it on Sunday mornings. You can have it in your own personal religion in your heart, but don't bring that into real debates because
don't bring it into the work world.
Yeah,
don't bring it to the public square.
Yeah,
that's the argument.
As if there's a real secular space.
Yes,
but now, Austin, you mentioned that it's getting replaced with Islam, and in some parts of Europe, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But I think that this is actually where a lot of the moral confusion of our age comes in, is because we gradually got rid of the Bible, and it took longer in the United States because we had the Great Awakening, we had the Second Great Awakening that kind of called us back to faith. But a lot of European nations did not have that.
Yep.
And I'm calling it now. The third one's getting ready to start.
I pray that's true. I really do pray.
I hope it's better than the second one.
Yeah, it's going to not fall into Finneyism this time.
Yeah.
I was listening to, thinking about that neutrality there. Like I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I was listening to non-Christians talk about the Charlie Kirk memorial service.
Yeah.
And one of the people the person whose show it was that was doing the interview was interviewing a French reporter.
Okay.
That had actually flown to Arizona and got to the thing and got there at like 3 a.m. to wait in line to try to get in.
Yeah.
They got in there. And the idea that there were American politicians getting up and praying and talking about God, they said in France, this would be illegal.
They're right.
Well, the French are a bunch of wee-wees.
Bunch of what?
Wee-wee.
Oh, wee-wee.
Bunch of wee-wees.
Yeah, wee-wee.
I mean,
okay.
That,
all right. Yes.
That is the ultimate example, because they had the French Revolution. They became very...
They had
to banish
the
religion.
secular version of what we had.
Yeah, the French Revolution was a sexual revolution on the history books I've read.
Well, I mean, it was a secular version of what we had.
Yeah,
it was a more neutral version, if you will.
But how can a quote unquote neutral or atheistic space? How can that give you sexual ethics?
That's right.
That's the reason why.
That goes back to why I think this is a myth, because all law is moral law.
All law is moral law.
Right. And it has to be based on some sort of morality, which rests on a form of worship. So going back to what you're saying, like they had a morality of their own, but it wasn't a Christian morality.
And see, this is the argument that a lot of, I'm just going to say, good, godly men who I believe love Jesus attack Christian nationalism because they have bought into the fact that there could be a moral neutrality in some way. And it's kind of like, well, you can't legislate morality.
Which is the most, I'm just going to say it, asinine thing possible, because all that laws do is legislate morality.
Yes.
Think about like a gas tax or a cigarette tax. They are trying to slow down the usage.
And it does change the heart of a culture.
Right.
The thing is as a Christian, though, coming from the other side, I have to go, legislation is not moral. It's legal to kill a baby, but that's not moral.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Say it again, because I think
legislation is not morality.
Right. All legislation puts a morality on something.
Yes.
But just because it is legislated does not make it moral.
Morally
according to God's laws.
Yeah.
But from their perspective,
it does.
That is their moral.
Because their moral is that there is no God, and we shouldn't impose that morality on them.
Right, but also
I know this is, by the way, this is, if you're a listener, you're probably like, wait, I'm so.
What did he just say?
Yeah. But,
thankfully, they can like rewind and listen to you again.
You know what?
Or they could hear Brian's voice and fast forward it until he get to one of you and I. You know,
that's what I usually do.
That's what I do too. Yeah.
Who?
They're going to fast forward through
to
you
Basil.
Here, Robbie
Basil.
And I. Yeah.
To Basil.
Basil.
Oh, did I they're going to fast forward Basil. To
yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Yeah. So what I'm saying is they're trying to their morality is taking God out of the equation, essentially. Right. And that's them saying, hey, we're neutral. This equation of God is putting something on it that shouldn't be there. And we're saying you can't have any real actual laws without having the morality of the moral law, which is God's law, the 10 Commandments.
It's someone's morals.
Yes.
That's being put into the light.
Let's be straight. Neutrality is a rebellion for a Christian. There's no such thing as neutrality for the Christian.
Pause there. Neutrality is rebellion
for the Christian. We cannot be neutral if Christ is king above.
Yeah.
You know, because this concept of neutrality is so promoted in our society, I understand that more recently, maybe that's not true.
Yeah. You're talking about like super recently, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the last 10 years.
Right.
But previously, neutrality, again, is equal
I think it's
fairness.
like the past 2 years.
Oh, no, it's...
I would say
8 years. It's been a slope over 8 years.
The reason I said 10, and I think we've said this before, 10 years ago is when the Obergefell decision.
Right. And you think it's been positive since then?
No,
or maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I think.
Oh, I'm reading it backwards. I was reading
Well, you guys are reading it the same way because I said something different. So tell me what you're saying.
I'm saying that over the last 10 years, people have stopped saying as much like, why can't we all just get along?
Oh,
why
okay.
Can't we just be fair and neutral and all that type of stuff?
Right.
To having a real type of culture war where it's, if you believe this, you're evil. So it's not like if you're against abortion, I disagree, but I can understand where you're coming from. It's like you hate women.
Yeah, no, all we've done is, I think we can all agree on this since we have no idea what we're each saying. But I think what we're saying is that the left is going further left, the right is going further right. And when I say that, I don't want to make the right synonymous with Christianity because it's not. And it certainly isn't. The left is synonymous with
antithetical to Christianity.
Right. But what I am saying is people are more entrenched in their beliefs now. And so this neutrality is less desirable for anybody now. Is that fair?
I would say it's fair.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But when you look at it biblically, if you're a Christian and you've grown up thinking that neutrality is like the thing you're supposed to do. Like, I'm not going to be neutral in my church. Yes, I believe in Jesus. I believe in the gospel.
Right.
But when it comes to the place of politics, of social morality, and types of things like that, it is very hard because you're swimming in that.
Yeah.
And so I can see how a lot of Christians kind of get to that. But I think if you're listening to this, you're a little skeptical of what we're saying. Think about it like this, that the Bible always kind of presents this as a duality.
Everything is a duality in the Bible almost. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so, whether you're talking about Joshua saying, choose this day who you will serve. And he mentions actually two sets of gods. He says, you can follow the gods of Egypt. You can follow the gods of the Amorites, that'd be the Canaanites, where they're about to go to. But he puts those two in the same kind of category, even though they're different gods, and they probably are slightly different. They are in the same category because he says, but I will serve the Lord. So they're serving the Lord and they're serving whatever else.
Yeah.
And they're kind of lumped all together.
Yep.
And so everything in the Bible does seem to be that kind of duality, whether you're talking about that part of the Old Testament Or, you jump into the New Testament and you hear about the kingdom of God.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear phrases like the kingdom of darkness and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you only hear about those two kingdoms.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even if you think about the first commandment, you worship God only. So to your point, everything else is wrong.
Right.
So yeah, you were referencing Joshua 24 there, by the way, if anybody's thinking, I want to go look that up. Joshua 24 is the choose this day whom you'll serve.
And when Jesus talks about judgment, and he's talking about the sheep and the goats, what do you have there? You have a duality. You are either following Christ or you are not.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the options. To us, it's very confusing because it looks like, there's all these different options.
Yeah, this plethora of religions or whatever.
But when it comes to God's perspective, there is the truth and there's those things that are not the truth. And of course, not truth is very diverse.
Yep.
Because you can have many, many different forms of not truth.
Yep.
But there's only one truth.
Yep.
Well, when it comes to truth, you're a slave to either God or to Satan. I mean, the Bible's clear about that. Ephesians 2 says that those who are saved, what we all were once slaves unto the God of this world.
Yep.
Romans 6, verse 16 through 19. But thank be to God that you who were once slaves of sin have become obedient from the heart to the standard of teaching to which you were committed, and have been set free from sin, having become slaves of righteousness.
Yeah.
So here's the
so you're either a slave to sin or a slave to righteousness.
The undergirding basis is this. People claim to have neutrality, but in their very foundational truth, man is a slave to sin. That is who they are. So there's no such thing as neutrality, even for those who think they're neutral.
Yeah.
And for the Christian, to say that you're neutral is to say that you're still under the authority of the God of this world. And it's rebellion, because you're called to be a slave to obedience, a slave to righteousness in Christ Jesus. That's what the Bible's very clear. G.K. Chesterton said the danger when men stop believing in God is not that they will believe in nothing, but that they'll believe in anything.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we have. We have a society where this postmodernity has come into play. My truth, my feeling, my pronoun. What are your pronouns, Robbie?
We don't have time to go into all of them.
Nike buyer.
Nike buyer.
Yeah. So, going back to Austin, you mentioned Christian nationalism. And I think one of the things that is important to note here is it's not whether we will have a Christendom. It's which Christendom we will have, either a faithful one or a fallen one.
Yeah.
And so as our nation goes, we will either have a Christian nation or we will have a non-Christian nation. And so when I look at it, I go, okay, I love my nation and I love the Lord, right? And I want our nation to repent.
Well, all authority has been given to me in heaven and earth. Go ye therefore teach all nations.
Yeah.
Christians love quoting verse 19 and 20,
Matthew
28, but they'll skip 18.
Yeah.
We go because all authority is already his. Listen, the local state city hall or the local county city hall or whatever's county seat, they belong to Christ.
Yep.
And there is no room for the Christian to think that's neutral ground. We enter the city hall as a member of society, not on neutral ground, but as warriors in the Christ army. So for anything other than Christendom to exist, or for anybody to be against Christian nationalism, is literally to be in disobedience to the Word of God.
And I think that the people who are against Christian nationalism, they simply want their own type of nationalism. And I think that's what we're trying to say.
A non-Christian nationalism?
Yeah, a non-Christian nationalism.
But what of the Christians who, and I think probably a lot of people we know and love would say they don't want a Christian nationalism. So what of
there's
that
some preachers I love that take that position.
So what of that Christian? Because I think what you were talking about is somebody that doesn't really want a Christian nation. But what about the Christian who says, yeah, I want a Christian nation, but I don't think we should impose laws on people because our government isn't set up that way?
Well, I mean, I will say there are different flavors of Christian nationalism.
Certainly.
And
I think that's only healthy to acknowledge that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's like anything else. They like to group everybody in the most extreme versions of everything.
Right.
And some of the loudest ones are the ones that get the most attention.
Right.
So
that's just kind of the loudest everything today.
Yeah.
Gets the most attention.
Squeaky wheel. Yeah.
So there are certain types of Christian nationalism that I would oppose. to one degree or another. Some I would just kind of mildly oppose and be like, well, that's not my particular thing. But there's other types that I might, because I think when a lot of people hear Christian nationalism, they're like, oh, so you want to murder everybody who's not a Christian. Like that's kind of what they
and Baptists have a really tough time with this.
Yeah, they do.
Well, because we've been murdered by
exactly.
everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Especially you think about, some of the Reformation period, even Baptists were killed.
Oh, they were baptized to death.
Yeah,
that was the common
if there was something
punishment
that some Protestants and Catholics could both agree on.
Yeah. Kill all the Baptists. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. And I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
And isn't that beautiful, us bringing people together like that?
There you go. That's really what
we're
we
always
do.
striving for unity and the bond of peace.
There you go. All right. What are some of the modern idols then that we've developed in this trying to be neutral? I'll give you one: autonomy, and we've talked about that a lot, so I won't go super into depth on that. But like this desire to be autonomous in all of my decisions, and we talked about, and I forgot the name of the book that we read again in small group.
I was thinking earlier too. I couldn't think about it because he talks about the fact
that was the Carl Truman book.
Truman,
Rising, something triumph,
something of the modern self.
Yeah. Gosh,
the
Rise and Triumph of the Modern
there
Self.
We go.
Yeah,
together we got
Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self. By Carl
there was a quote in there, and I'd like to look it up. He said, "As the media goes, or as the world goes, so the arts go, and as the arts go."
I think it was something like the poets are the legislators of
the next generation.
It's something like that. About poets are basically the people who create the arts.
Yeah.
Are the people who create the laws.
That's
So how much more should we be creating the arts?
Which kind of goes back to what we were talking about, the way that various different media affects the way that we are our values, people are promoting values, and when we don't realize that, they are definitely going to lead their values, because if we're not even thinking critically, and don't even realize, because if you're thinking critically to some degree, you can watch a movie and be like, you know what, I see what they're promoting there, and I don't agree with it.
Let's dive down this road just for a split second. Critical thinking and the church and broad. I think what happened on the fall of our Christianity and our identity as a Christian nation was the expectation that, we're a Christian nation of the 50s and 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't answer the hard question of the first generation hippies. It was just, bless God, this is how it is. And that did not go away. They still, I think really we're seeing a revitalization of the church finally saying, hey, give me any hard question you have and I will answer it. And I will not only answer it with scripture and the truth, I will give you the philosophical truth behind that as well. I think that's a radically new revitalization of the church that we're seeing in our generation that was there before, but it's just now being reawakened again.
Okay. What do you think? Any other modern idols? I mean, I think I'm asking you a question and then I give an answer. Sorry, I do that all the time. Yeah. I'm going to say tolerance as a god. Going back to the whole neutrality is good, and so everybody wants to be tolerant. I think that
multiculturalism.
Yeah, right.
That's a god of our society.
Do you think that tolerance in any way is a positive thing?
I think being intolerant is biblical sometimes.
So what you're saying is you hate everybody who doesn't agree with you?
Dude, I am equal opportunity racist. I hate everybody equally.
All the people.
I don't know why race got brought into it. But
he's saying he hates all the ethnicities.
I hate everyone. I love all my brothers and sisters made in the image of God. There's a love I have that is general, not particular.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's biblical. But there is a society that says every culture, every style, everything has value, and it doesn't have value. That's idolatry.
Yeah, I think to answer your question, my first instinct, and it may be a wrong instinct, and I might need to think about it to really have an informed opinion.
Yep.
But my first instinct is no. Tolerance is not a good thing.
No.
I think it kind of means depends on what you mean by it.
Well,
that's right.
It depends on your level of tolerance. if we're talking about tolerance, like me putting up with my Presbyterian brothers, even though they keep dipping babies when the Bible never commands it,
they don't dip the babies.
No, they
just drip
sprinkle.
them.
They sprinkle them.
Yeah.
I'd be a little less upset if they dipped them.
If you put them upside down and like dip them like a
throw them up and down like
Maker's
the
Mark
do.
bottle or something.
Yeah.
But I think when some people hear you say good things that are intolerant, like intolerance is a good thing, and that tolerance is a bad thing, what they hear is, well, okay, so you're saying that we should be like mean-spirited and rude to people of different faiths or people who claim no faith?
I don't know that. Maybe somebody says that, Robbie, but like...
But what Robbie is saying is what they assume when we say, I'm not tolerant.
I don't care.
Yeah, I know you don't care, Karen.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't care because ultimately that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it means that you should be rude, but to be tolerant means to accept something.
But that's only if you define it that way.
Okay.
Okay. So Christians are oftentimes accused of being intolerant because we don't just accept everyone for what they say. Mm-hmm. So if someone says that I was a man, now I'm a woman, you are intolerant if you don't accept that.
Again, I don't care.
So if that is
right.
If that's your definition of intolerant, yeah, I'm intolerant because I don't affirm what everybody says. But I also don't hate those people necessarily.
Of course.
And I can, like, I've had jobs, not, just to be clear, not at Grace Point Church, but I have had jobs where I worked with people that were not believers.
Yeah.
And came from all types of lifestyles and worldviews that I did not share. Mm-hmm. And I could love those people. I could be civil to those people. There were certainly things that came up in conversation that we had to disagree on.
Well, yep.
And I could be kind.
Let me put it a different way. I'm anti-tolerant, but I'm for being gracious. I think that's the way I would define it. And some people would say that you can't say that. That's an oxymoron, but it's not. I don't have to be tolerant. That is, if I'm not going to put up with sin in my household, I'm not going to put up with cultural biases that are anti-Bible. I'm not going to put up, there's a lot of things I'm just not tolerant. As the school, like we have people who come from apostolic backgrounds, anti-Trinitarian. I'm not tolerant of their views because it's heretical. But I am being gracious to them in the fact that they're there, but I'm not going to give them 1 inch to spread their dogma, not 1 inch. And so I think I'm tolerant in the fact that I'm gracious, but I'm not tolerant of the things that are being done.
I think it does depend on the context, too, because you just used the example of your own household.
Yeah.
In one of our church ministries.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, if we're at a Christian institution that is ran by a Reformed Baptist church, the expectation is that you're either going to be a Reformed Baptist, or if you're not, you're going to understand that that's the institution that you're in, and you need to be respectful to that.
Yeah, and if you're not going to be respectful, go start your own institution.
But when you step out into and we understand it's not neutral. That's what we're saying. But people would say, the workplace is neutral or something like that.
I can tell you it's not.
Right. Basil knows.
Basil knows. Yep.
And so, but like that, and that's the thing. It's not really. Everything's coming from a perspective that when you're at a job, when you're talking to people, because they, if you're disagreeing with someone, like, and they're saying, "Oh, you're intolerant," they're also disagreeing with you. Mm-hmm. So they are at least equal amounts intolerant.
So I think the problem is that we've allowed definitions to change.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
And that is way bigger than this conversation now. But allowing definitions to be changed is part of the problem. And the way that we stop that from happening is by refusing to go along with it.
Yeah, I think we should go to old definitions. I think my relationship with Robbie is very gay. It makes me happy.
I agree.
You wish.
People don't know you. They're like,
no, yeah. People are going to have to listen to that twice.
They don't know that you say every morning,
say?
"I love you, Robbie."
That's our morning routine. Good morning, Robert.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
As you're always walking away, like, God, can I get away from this guy? All right. So, hopefully what we've done in that first...
Can I say something?
No.
I'm going to say it anyway.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, I'm gonna take one.
You are so not tolerant.
I'm gonna take one from Basil's playbook and say, I don't care. I don't care. I think what you said about the definitions, I think is absolutely correct. That is why I'm constantly on this show saying it depends on how you define it.
Or define your terms,
because people are oftentimes coming at things from a very different definition.
Yeah.
And I don't think as Christians we should just allow the secular, and by secular, of course, we know that secular is atheist. So we should not just automatically let the atheist world have the definitions.
100%.
But at the same time, we do have to understand what definitions they're using.
Yeah.
Because
you have to know what you're fighting, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if I'm giving the gospel to somebody who is steeped in a particular worldview, I've got to be able to speak to them. It's like Paul in Athens,
Mars Hill,
speaking to people, and he is aware of their particular poets, and he's aware of their particular viewpoints.
Yeah.
And he doesn't demand that, all right, everyone go read the Jewish scriptures.
Yep.
And you come back to me and then I'll talk to you when you have, he speaks the truth to them, but he does it understanding what they believe.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's very important that we do both sides of that. We don't feel like we have to operate under their definitions, but we also need to understand. And speak
the
their
apostles are a great example of this because Paul, one minute he's getting up using their poets, quoting their philosophy right there on Mars Hill, where many philosophers had stood before. He gives the gospel, and the Bible says some mocked, but some believed. At the same time, you see Paul at other times telling people, "Yeah, I don't care, cupcake. This is the direction we're going. You're not circumcising Titus. I'd rather you cut your own self off." So I think there's a balance there, but I wouldn't say that Paul was being tolerant there. On Mars Hill, he spoke the truth, knowing they were going to laugh, but some would believe.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody calls Paul tolerant.
No, he didn't. He wasn't a very tolerant man.
Yeah.
No.
Anyway, what I was trying to say before you so rudely interrupted me with I don't care. Was
I apologize.
So, how was your day, Robbie?
It's great.
It's even better now.
Yep. Let's wait till he starts talking. We'll interrupt him again.
All right, go ahead.
What I was hoping to say is that hopefully we contrasted the secular myth of neutrality with a biblical claim of Christ's crown rights. So what happens, though, and this is probably a pretty quick segment here because we've already sort of talked about it, but what happens when we pretend there is a neutrality?
We lose because we are now operating under their definitions and their particular worldview.
Yep.
And so it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Man, say it again. We lose
Yeah.
when we start adopting their definitions and playing their game.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
incredible.
I
mean, we've seen the results of that. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Churches turning into gyms.
Yeah.
And everything else. Something just bit me.
It's Abby.
Probably an ant.
I'm still sitting on that. We lose. Like that is so profound.
Yeah.
It really is. And to come from Robbie, it's even like,
what does that mean?
you don't say.
I've never heard you say.
You never say profound things. No, that's not what I mean. We generally don't agree so strongly on something like that. But love you, Robbie.
I like what Wilson says. Christ or chaos is not a bumper sticker. It's the choice nations make. And history always records the outcome. There is no such thing as Christ. I mean, Christ or chaos. That's it. And you're going to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
If we don't have a moral foundation for what is right and what is wrong, it's not very long until the nation walks away and all things become right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're heading.
Yeah. I mean, you talked about like the empty cathedrals and the gyms and all that, but also like some modern or contemporary things that we could think about are like schools discipling kids into paganism and into transgender ideologies.
In our little town, there was a young lady, and I'm going to be careful what I say here, who was struggling with her sexual identity. The state-paid counselor at Bellevue High School, I don't know if she's still there or not, encouraged her towards that end encouraged her towards all kinds of drugs and counseling, and the young lady fell into such a grand depression that she took her own life. And talking to her dad, he says she was the problem. She pushed his daughter down that road. And I think that's happening all over the nation.
Yeah, definitely.
It's these priestesses of Molech who they can't kill the babies, so they try to castrize the children so they can't have babies. I mean, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if that can happen in our conservative area, that can happen anywhere.
Yeah, we're in a part of the country that still prays at football games, and it's in our public school.
Yep. What about courts redefining morality? Have we seen that?
Equal justice under the law has gone the way of the dogs.
Yeah. I mean, we could think about marriage and gender. Courts have decided so many of those things recently, and just
we've shifted.
Setting the morality.
As a nation, we started as a common law nation, which gets its morality openly from the Bible. In fact, you enter to the Supreme Court, and Moses is holding the 10 tablets as you enter the court.
10 Commandments and the tablets.
The 10 Commandments and the tablets. So Moses is holding the 10 Commandments when you enter the Supreme Court. So now we've moved from common law to a mixture of this maritime / case law. And we've slowly moved away from common law and having any actual moral foundation.
Say maritime law?
Yeah, we've moved to a maritime system.
Isn't maritime like water,
ocean?
Water, oceans, yeah. So our law is a mixture of maritime, case law, and common law mixed together.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
But it started common law and started drifting towards other philosophies slowly.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. You got any other examples, Robbie, you can think of?
Examples of what? What's the question? Is this the
just
altar,
what happens.
like the gods?
Well, when we pretend that there's a neutrality. No, not you don't have to use any terminology. Just like when we pretend that there is a neutrality, what are some of the things that? And you don't have to have anything else.
Well, I think it's because he had a quote about it being confusion.
Yeah,
and I think that's very true. To be fair, because I'm all about being fair, not about being neutral, but about
being very
fair,
tolerant,
honest.
Yeah.
I do think, because, the Bible talks about natural law.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I do believe, here's kind of how I look at it. You can learn a lot from natural law and build a semi-stable society.
Certainly.
If you look, I think, at the world, the more biblical a nation is, the better it has turned out.
Well, and history backs that up.
Right. Exactly.
History backs that up.
And so, for instance, I think if you look at the most free and prosperous nations, they're primarily Protestant nations.
Yeah, they're all Protestant nations.
And if you kind of work your way back, there are Catholic nations that I think are maybe a step back, but they have some Christian principles. I think when you step out of Christianity, there are many societies that are not, they don't have the scripture, so they're missing a lot of guidance.
Yeah, but
they have a good grasp of natural law. I feel like our society wants to destroy all that. They want to destroy at least many of the people that have been the leaders of our society over the last few decades. They don't want to just destroy Christianity, which of course is very bad, but even natural law in many ways is like we can take things and say, this is obvious. This, we can just see this. I don't even need the scriptures to know that a man is made for a woman.
Right.
Like that's just biology. And you can't even ask a Supreme Court going to courts.
Yeah.
No, I was going to Justice Jackson.
Well,
when she was being asked,
what is a woman?
What is a woman?
Yep.
Now, the thing about that is, to be fair, I know that Justice Jackson knows what a woman is.
Of course she does.
One of the reasons that President Biden nominated her was because he said he wanted to nominate a woman.
Yep.
So President Biden knows what a woman is. Justice Jackson knows what a woman is.
Am I wrong? Did he say
a black woman?
A black woman?
He said black,
or was it a minority woman or something like that? I feel like he.
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Then
but the point is,
I won't say he said it. Then,
they all know what a woman is, but they can't say it.
Right.
They don't feel like they can say, or at least she didn't feel like she could say it in that moment.
Yep. Because she wouldn't be neutral if she said that, according to their.
And you know what I really wish it happened is she said, "I'm not a biologist," and I wish the person questioning her had said, So you are saying it is a biological question.
Yes.
Yep.
And instead, the person was like, "Are you kidding me? You can't answer the question." And it's like, I wish you would have like kind of
Robbie
nailed
needs to
that
be a
down.
But see,
Yes, send me to the Senate.
Yeah.
Send me to the Senate.
They could not answer because their god, Baphomet, is transgender. I mean, that's what that picture of the Satanist church, it's Baphomet, it's this transgender demon. So it's foundational to go against that which is in natural, what's taught in nature, natural theology, is being pushed against by Satan because it multiplies the image and glory of God. So I would agree that at one sense, there are a lot of nations, because of natural theology, have a basis of what moral and right is, but it is in man's nature to push against that which magnifies the image and glory of God, and that which is in natural theology magnifies God. So that's why Baphomet, the symbol of the satanic church, that demon, it's a man with breast, and I don't know if you've seen the Baphomet. Their god's a transgender god. And so that is anti-life. That is, in fact, death.
It's anti-reality.
It's
Yeah,
anti-reality.
And any time you're trying to tear down reality, you're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just mean like Christianity. I mean society is going to lose. And so I think that many of the forces that we're looking at are dangerous in this sense. They're not just anti-Christian, but
They're demonic.
But they're anti-reality. Many of them are demonic, and many of the people who know the truth don't feel like they can even say it because there's so many people who would be upset.
And that's why we need men with chest. In the words of C.S. Lewis, we need men with chest.
Men's chess. Apparently.
Men's chest.
Men with men's chests.
Yeah.
I have an idea for a sequel.
All right. So before we wrap up, let's just talk about, if there is no neutrality, what can we do as households? What can we do as a church? What can people do in just in their daily life?
Number one, catechize your kids.
Catechize them. Man, catechize them. And, you should also catechize them in the Christian heritage of the United States.
Well, those foundational principles that made our forefathers fight. Yes, Old Forge, you just wrote go ahead and put that plug in the book you just finished.
Yeah, we just wrote a catechism it's called the Christian Heritage Catechism of America. And literally it is a catechism to use as a family to teach the Christian foundations of our nation.
Yep, to lay those theological, philosophical, and historical truths that made our nation what it is.
You can get it at theoldforgepress.com.
Yep.
Or on Amazon if you want to pay more and give Bezos some dollars. But anyway, so back to household. You're exactly right. Catechize your kids in theology, mainly is what you're talking about there, but also other things.
Well, I think we're always going to come back to these things. Catechize your kids at home. Take them to church.
Yep.
Take them to church.
So that they are not just hearing your voice.
We should always come back to these things, though.
Right.
In reality, we should say it every time. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to tell our kids there's no such thing as neutrality. Because the world is telling them there's neutrality. We need to point out that where there is no light, you're standing in dark.
So maybe if you're doing family worship and you're reading the Bible, you'll have an opportunity to do that then, huh?
Amen.
Yeah.
I will also say that while we should tell them that there is no neutrality, we should tell them that there is we do need to be fair. In other words, it is very easy sometimes to say, okay, here's our opponents. Let's mischaracterize them. Let's put them in the worst light possible. And the problem is if we're lying for the goodness of the kingdom of God, there's still a problem.
Yeah, you're saying use logic and steel man their argument, not straw man it.
Right, exactly.
Get their best argument and then beat that to a pulp with biblical logic.
I probably wouldn't have used the phrase "beat it to a pulp," but yeah,
that's Basil talk.
That's a Basil.
Yeah, that's a Basil phrase
because it's always military. It's always military phrasing.
You know what though? Let's be honest. Do they play fair?
No.
And I think there's a danger of always trying to play fair with people who are cheating.
Well, you play their game and you lose is what.
Yeah,
Robbie
that's
said.
the problem. You can't play their game, but at the same time, you stand up. You don't go tit for tat with people.
We talk about that with apologetics
all
the time.
Yeah.
What's that stance called? I'm drawing a blank on it now.
I mean, if someone's lying or mischaracterizing us, the answer isn't to lie and mischaracterize them.
Oh, no, we should be bulwarks of truth. We should stand on absolute truth. But the thing is we ought not give an inch. And I think that's where a lot of apologists make the mistake. It's like they try to seek to understand. Instead of seek to understand the argument, they're trying to put themselves in their shoe. They're having empathy, and empathy can be very sinful. Empathy is when you crawl into the thought or the feeling of an individual. Sympathy is where you say, hey, dude, you fell in a pit. Let me help you get out of there.
Right, rather than jumping down in there with them.
And that's where, I mean, just this ain't the podcast, Ryan. That's the reason why God calls men to lead and not women. Women tend towards empathy. Men tend towards sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
It's who we are.
Because we're superior is what you're saying.
Yeah, we are not superior, but we are called.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, we're superior. Let's be honest. In some ways, they're superior to us.
In lifting things.
Hey.
No, actually, there's a lot, but
yeah,
that will take us.
That's another podcast for another time.
For sure.
You talk about how like men and women are different. So this is a little bit off topic, but because I was talking to one of my classes, and when I was talking about, I was mentioning Vietnam, and I was talking about the draft.
Yeah.
And I went on this whole like rant where I was like, girls, though, I'm for equality, so I think you should be drafted too.
That's right.
If our boys can be sent to die on the beaches, so and of course they're looking at me like what? Of course I'm being sarcastic.
You joke about that, but that has somewhat already happened in our culture.
Well, it's the natural outgrowth. So, if you're treating them as equal, then that's the natural outgrowth.
Well, my daughter, she was at Bible college up North Florida, and she was telling me she came home one weekend. She's like, Dad, that is not a Bible college. That's a college that happens to be a Christian college. It's like, and I was talking to her. She goes, I'm walking into the door. I grew up in Central Florida where there's a Christian culture of chivalry. She goes, first time I walk into the classroom, a bunch of boys walk in front of me, and they literally about broke my nose because they just shut the door in my face as I was walking through. She goes, I'm so used to men opening the door and holding the door for me. She goes, well, ladies will be walking down the sidewalk, and they won't move. They expect you just to go around them because that has so infiltrated the culture that it's just become the norm. I don't know how I got down on that road, but there's a shift.
Well, that goes back to the patriarchy. There's always going to be a patriarchy. And I know we haven't defined that term yet. We still got to do that podcast. But it's either going to be a good patriarchy or a bad patriarchy.
It's always going to be one or the other.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to try to summarize some stuff because I know we're already probably a little long.
Yeah.
So daily worship, catechize your kids, be in church if the church is open, preach Christ is King, worship as resistance, beat their idols to a pulp.
Amen.
No, refuse to play their game, build institutions. Ultimately, I would summarize it as worship, build, resist, and confess Christ as King. You guys have any other closing thoughts?
Be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. 1 Corinthians 16:13-14.
Yep.
Speak truth and pray for wisdom. That's what every, I think, believer has to do.
That's really good. All right. Well, thanks for listening to the Altars and Ashes podcast. The false altars of this age will fall. Do not bow to them. Christ's kingdom will stand. Do not despair at the ashes. Instead, worship the King, build his kingdom, and keep the fire burning.